Usually we go and negotiate what the impacts of what those decisions are. We're now 2 weeks away from the end of the year, 2.5 weeks away from the end of the year, and Franklin County's changes are, according to their letter to the bench, are effective January 1st, 2026.
Has the bench officially responded to
The bench has officially responded. They're indicating that they expect Franklin County to honor their commitments and that they do not agree with them moving them to Martin Hall, but they are continuing conversations with that.
So once again, this triggered their budget also triggered this,
right,
with the 500,000 versus the 2.9.
So we checked with the juvenile staff over there, and they submitted a budget request for 2026 of around $2.9 million. And then that obviously was not included in the budget. They were never informed that it would not be included in the budget. So they were surprised to see that when they pulled their budget numbers up after the commissioners over there adopted their budget. So yeah, because of the short amount of time and the no notice, I mean, we're looking at some significant issues in the personnel side. They could cost us, to maintain staffing while we negotiate impacts and do all that. We're potentially looking at, even if we did away with everything else, you're still looking at almost $1 million, $1.5 million impact to Benton County to deal with that. Probably take us 3 to 6 months to unwind all of these services. This isn't something that can just be dropped in a day, and negotiate with the unions on how that looks, because the bi-county employer would be going away as they pull out. So that changes their bargaining unit and a whole bunch of other things. So, we lose out on the $150,000 a year usage fee that was agreed to in lieu of that $7 million capital contribution. Aside from those direct impacts, there's obviously concerns about public safety. What happens to kids who rely on these services, who now may not have them anymore if Benton County has to stop providing them, and where do they go for counseling and probation and all of those kind of things. There's grants very similarly to human services that we have that are done on a basis through the administrative office of the courts, and so they issue the grant to Benton County as we are the administering agency, but they are written to provide services across both counties. And so those typically don't expire till the end of the state fiscal year, which is June 30th. So we have several grants out there that, we could have a similar situation to human services, where we are now contractually obligated to the state to provide certain services. And if Franklin County is not a party to those agreements anymore, or our agreement anymore, or if there's an issue with the services there, we could be left holding the bag or defending a lawsuit on our own because they've decided to pull out of that. So that's a concern for us. And
then Matt, real quick, and I apologize, one more comment on that. So I know why Jeff's going to be speaking here in just a minute, our chief civil attorney for Benton County. Right. And I will look at this. It's very concerning to me, being on the business side, because what we do is it's a customer service, taxpayer service oriented business that we do to provide services to everybody that lives within Benton County, and it can carry over in a positive way to Franklin County. Mm-hmm. I'm very concerned with this. I know when Jeff speaks and when you're speaking, because we've talked about this with, a couple of weeks ago with the Benton Franklin Health District and where that's going, and we're going in the red because we're not doing things the right way financially that their chief administrator would like to go ahead and do in their staff on some Medicaid issues. I'm concerned with that. We also had the issue with the human services. We went ahead and kind of carried that over to help Franklin County out to at least June of 26 of next year, because that was going to affect not only Benton County residents, and not just the people that use the programs, but it affects emergency rooms, affects insurance policies for everybody that lives within both counties, but it affected Franklin County residents. So we went ahead and, even though they cut it off, we were able to go ahead and work with them to allow that program to extend out further, to give them time to build that program up, even though services may be cut. So those are those two programs. Now this is juvenile detention. That's the third one. And I'm really concerned also about the recovery center. So I think if we don't do anything, we're going to go off that cliff. And I'm not willing to do that with Benton County. We want to make sure that we're flush.
So along with your concerns, and obviously staff shares those same concerns. kind of what we've outlined today. Jeff maybe can tell us, I think we have two options available to us at this point. So Jeff, you could brief the board on what our options are.
So commissioners, to prevent the Benton County from going off the cliff, we have a few legal options. And I know pursuing legal options is not everyone's preference, especially in such a litigious society as we have. And since we have such a long-standing relationship with Franklin County over these years that recently has deteriorated. But unfortunately, in this case, as Matt is really eloquently said, is we just haven't had communications with Franklin County as to what their true intentions are. So we're left trying to read the tea leaves. And in the law, trying to read the tea leaves when we have a contract in place between the two counties gives us only a few options. One is we have to evaluate, do we have a breach of the contract? Do we have a formal breach? For example, has Franklin County not paid that usage fee that Matt talked about, that's $12,500? Have they not paid that? That would be a basis for bringing a breach of contract lawsuit against them. In my understanding, they have not paid it for the month of December. The other avenue we have is in law is called anticipatory breach. Anticipatory breach is when a party to the contract gives indications that they have no intention of honoring their obligations. And then that gives certain rights to the non-breaching party to pursue action against the party they believe will breach the agreement. And that's also what we seem to have here. And when we have a situation where we believe Franklin County will not live up to these obligations based on the correspondence they send to the Superior Court judges, our other option is to enjoin them. And we get this enjoinder means to stop them from doing something. And we file what's called a preliminary injunction. And the preliminary injunction, if it was successful in court, would prevent them from negotiating with Martin Hill out at Medical Lake and sending their juveniles there, and require them to live up to the obligations in our agreement between the two counties until we could work out a resolution. I don't know what the appetite is for trying to hold their feet to the fire and through 2033, or if there can be some other negotiated or amend the agreement somehow with them. But those are our two options. So preliminary injunction based on anticipatory breach or actual breach of contract. What I would suggest is if the commissioners want to move forward this, we combine those two causes of action in a lawsuit with the hopes that Franklin County will realize that it would be much more worthwhile to try to negotiate with us through formal channels of communication, and instead of going through the very expensive and protracted litigation process.
And
Well, okay, go ahead.
just for the record, I agree with what Jeff is saying. I think we need to take legal action here. My opinion is that I think we could probably come to some sort of agreement to separate prior to 2033, but I don't think that should be on the table until they've agreed to honor our current agreement until we are able to change it. I don't think we should go in there and negotiate with them saying we're not going to honor that. They should honor what they've agreed to and ask for us to reconsider and do something else. That's my opinion.
Well, that's my thought too, is to file as soon as we can before the end of the year, definitely a preliminary injunction to keep them from moving forward on their own without, but I'm willing to negotiate with them if they want to get out of it. I'm willing to negotiate that. But I mean, you're putting employees at risk, you're putting, collective bargaining agreements at risk, and that causes all kinds of problems. And so, yeah, we need, as a county, we need time to figure that out if that's truly what they want to do. Now, I heard they had already signed an agreement with Martin Hall, whatever that place
I believe
is.
that's accurate.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just can't believe I can believe that they're this irresponsible just to move down this path without letting anyone know except for one letter to the courts. I mean, that's just, who's running the ship over there? The inmates in the asylum or what? I mean, seriously, I mean, you know, within the health department thing they did
Human
on that.
service, everything.
And he was, I mean, geez. But you know, the voters vote them in there. Good for them. You know, best of luck for Franklin County residents. But yeah, we need to protect ourselves as a county and protect our taxpayers. And yeah, I would go forward with filing the preliminary injunction as soon as we can and get that, so to stop them from making this into a disaster. And it brings up, as you said, the recovery center. We don't have an agreement with them yet on that recovery center yet.
No, we don't have the only agreement we
mean-
have right now with the recovery centers, they've agreed to help fund a cost of the betterments that were added to the
Right.
project.
And
They have paid their bills on that so far.
so far.
We still
Well,
have
that's
one.
that's what an AP, you know, that they're using, that was all their COVID dollars that they have to spend.
No, they're using,
No?
I don't know exactly what fund they're using, but
Oh.
they have quite a fund balance in their 1/10 of 1% sales
Okay,
tax.
okay.
So
So
whether they pulled it from there or COVID, I don't
Right.
know exactly where they
at least
came
they've been
from.
doing that, but I mean, that begs the question, do we, you know, do we even want to sign an agreement with that recovery center? And
It's a question that I think we need to
We need to
seriously
discuss.
consider,
Right.
because if this is the type of relationship that we're going to have, I would not recommend that we enter into an agreement with a partner like that, where Benton County commits itself to expenditures that then the partner would not honor. And that would be, I mean, we can still operate a recovery center. It can still serve the residents of both counties. But we intend, at least our intention in this side, was to make sure that we covered residents that maybe didn't have another way to pay. We obviously could not do that on behalf of Franklin County without some sort of an agreement for them to pay it back. And then if this is the way they approach our agreements and the way they plan to honor them, that's a tremendous risk for us to take that on and then have no expectation that they would honor that agreement if they didn't like a decision that we made related to a payment or something like that. It would not be something I would recommend that we do.
See, I think that's, you know, a good conversation to have. Like I said, even with, then you go into human services, will be separated from human services in 26. I think that'll be done. The health district, I don't know, because at one point in time, they talked about maybe not being part of the health district no longer. So that's gonna be another topic. In the meantime, we need to get some commissioners over there to vote to go ahead and vote in some of those additional costs for Medicaid. So if they're uninsured, I mean, if they're insured, at least they can go ahead and charge the insured side of Medicaid, because we're all paying for that. So that's another discussion. We were talking about negotiations and stuff like that. To me, on this, like I said, I am all pro. You know, I know my boss, and my boss is 227,000 people that live in Benton County, but we try to do the right thing. We can go ahead and work with Franklin County or any other county. It doesn't matter, any city. We've been very good about collaboration with the cities within the county. If it carries over and works well, that's great. But we need to have that communication, and we just can't have, you know, counties that have these agreements and all of a sudden they're doing things with their budget and that's going to impact the taxpayers here. It's just flat out wrong. It's not the right way to do business or to collaborate with any organization. So I'm with you, Jeff. I like the recommendation. I'm with you, Commissioner Delvin, and I don't mind on this one here. We need to go ahead and hold, you know, their feet to the fire to make sure this is done correctly. Otherwise, it's going to be a long drawn out process, and that affects 70 some employees over there at the detention center. They're going to be stressed out on this time. We got to figure out the financial side of it, the legal impact on it. So it's important, vital that we get it done.
Commissioner McKay, anything?
Can barely breathe.
No, I agree. And again, staying together is gonna be cheaper. Like working together with two counties instead of separating it out on some of the stuff that they were talking about and wanting to do. Yeah, I say we do as best we can to stay together with both counties, because it'll save money for Franklin County and Benton County.
If we can, but I think the biggest thing here is, you know, right now what I'm seeing, Commissioner McKay, is, and especially in the last year, probably within the last year, is we have been very proactive on everything since I've been on the commission. Staff and the commissioners have been very good about being very proactive, setting good policy, and being financially responsible for everything we do. We're looking at the short term, midterm, and long term. But when we're working with government agencies and they're not looking at setting good policy within the two counties, or being good on the financial side, within the two counties on what we need to work with. That's what concerns me. And right now, I don't see that partnership, that policy, or those financial decisions being made in a way that has it has a heavy impact on us and the taxpayers that we represent. We got to continue to set that good policy and that being financially responsible for the taxpayers here, number one first.
Well, I would make a motion then to allow our civil attorney to take appropriate action.
Commissioner, if I may, I think at this point, if this is the direction of the commissioners,
Oh,
we need to prepare some documentation, and then ultimately we would come back to the board for a
Oh,
resolution
right.
authorizing the PA to file
We
that.
may do that Friday, right?
So yeah, if we wanted to do that prior to the end of the year with the holidays, we
Okay.
look at tentatively a special board meeting on Friday. We have another special board meeting for a legislative legislative thing. So maybe just right after that, since the commissioners are already be around.
And like I said, I'm all, we all get along with those, all the commissioners that I get along with. I don't get along with any of them. I mean, I get along with them all. I said that wrong, but and I wish everybody the best on that, all counties. We don't want any county to go ahead and have financial issues or bad policy and stuff like that. But this one here, the one impact us, we have to go ahead and be proactive and do the right thing. Otherwise, we are going to go slide down with that. And I can't. We've worked too hard to go ahead and be.
Well, if they had approached us during their budget development process 6 months ago and said, hey, what we've agreed to is with our budget, we can't afford that. Can we look at a way to reduce that cost I think that discussion could absolutely have happened. But when we get a week and a half notice that, hey, there's potentially that this agreement's no longer going to be in place, we're backed into a corner and we have to take action.
Yeah, and if you heard, our finance director, Linda, a while back when we were doing our budget, she said it's the most difficult budget she's ever gone through since she's worked here.
Yeah, we definitely do not have the room in our current biennial budget to absorb that kind of loss.
That's what I'm
It'll have
saying.
direct impacts to Benton County.
This one's even going to be more challenging. So we really need to be proactive on and making sure we cross our T's and dot our I's.
Okay. We will prepare the necessary documents and we'll schedule a special board meeting for the board's consideration on Friday.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys. Commissioner McKay, anything before we close up? 1 second. Okay.
The Grinch is going to be gone next week. So the Grinch wishes you all a very Merry Christmas.
Commissioner Alvarez, anything?
No, I just want to wish all our staff, everybody that works in Benton County, all the employees, just really appreciate all the hard work you've done this year. It shows. I work with a lot of different counties. We all do. We talk to a bunch of commissioners throughout the state, and we're kind of a shining light in here. And that's because of everybody that works here in Benton County. So I'm very proud to be part of that organization and work with all of you. So I want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Okay, and I'll say that Commissioner Alvarez takes over his chair next year.
You're going to get me in trouble.
He'll
aren't
be
you?
the chair. No, he'll be the chair. I still got that law library thing, but okay. But yeah, but I appreciate both of you guys. I think we're a good team to work. We don't always agree, but we find solutions and work it out. And so I appreciate that. I think we have a great county. I'm proud to be part of that county. And again, I think we got some really good employees that work for us in Benton County. And we do our best to take care of everyone in Benton County. But I really appreciate the hard work that all of our employees do and appreciate the work by the other electeds that we work with to help us run this county. And really appreciate that and want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year too. We don't have a meeting next week. And
Our next meeting is the 30th.
the 30th.
We have one
more
more before the
meeting
end
of
of
the
the
year, but yeah.
So I have a special board meeting though, probably Friday. Okay.
Right, and that, so, again, anything else, Mr. Spencer, anything? Mr. Sheriff? Okay, anything from them? Okay, with that, meeting adjourned. Have a good rest of the week.
Merry Christmas.